Tom, welcome. So we had an interesting panel. You are the founder of Blue Water Energy, a recent private equity firm put together to focus on the energy market. You guys look globally. You have over 25 years of experience in your space, right?
Yes.
So we'd like to start off from you. How do you view the world, and how do you look at the energy landscape from an investment standpoint, and how do you, as a financier, see all the pieces of the puzzle?
So for us, we start looking kind of, if I could, at the grid of energy. And we start with reserves, then we start with all of the pieces of the extraction of oil, and then all the pieces of the delivery of oil, the demand, and frankly, there are a couple of peripherals. So we think about the energy grid, starts with the reserve. For us, fundamentals are easily tracked with oil, because there's lots of data. 88, 89 million barrels a day of oil are consumed, produced in the world. On the consumption side, the U.S. is 22, 21, 22. The Chinese are 9. The U.S. produces 8 or 9. The Chinese produce 3. So therein lies the rub of sort of global imbalance.
Right.
Now, other suppliers include Russia at 10, Saudi at 10, Iran 4-ish, Mexico, Canada similar. But the other thing is that 88, 89 is kind of in tight supply.
Okay.
So at the margin, the supply declines 5 to 10% a year because of decline rates. So every year you got to replace 4 to 8 million barrels a day, a year. The investment for that is billions. Hence the supply chain argument. So we want to be 80% in the supply chain of this stuff. Why? Most kit in the energy space is make to order, not make to buy, application specific, highly engineered, a small fraction of the overall cost of goods, and generally has an installed base that is kind of a risk mitigant because the user, the production platform, the refinery, the power plant, has a way higher cost of downtime than that underlying part or service.
Right.
So what you get is you kind of want to know the macro and then invest in the supply chain piece by piece, and you can dissect where the best risk-adjusted returns are. And the thesis is that gives you commodity exposure, but risk mitigants in the downside of the supply chain.
With the specific investments, right? So you guys are leveraging this big macro thing. I mean,
Yes.
Demand is not falling short, but production available to service it is falling by 4% a year,
Yes.
whatever you said. And so you guys look for specific companies. Where in the supply chain are you guys investing currently? I think you've mentioned midstream has been an area you focused on in the U.S. for oil refinery.
We like logistics globally. So the basic thesis is demand is further and further away from supply based on U.S., China, etc. Also, most of the reserves these days are now owned by relatively non-democratic places. So
put it mildly, right?
And so most of them really don't invest outside their border. So there's an arbitrage for global logistics.
Right.
And if you can be in storage in various pieces of that supply chain, we find a pretty good risk-adjusted place.
Sure.
In addition, in the Western markets, a lot of that supply logistics is kind of post-war design and is a bit antiquated.
Aging infrastructure. It's
Absolutely.
going to need to be replaced, potentially by better technology, right?
Yes, I mean, even just logistics. If you look in most industrial areas of cities, I mean, I was born in South Chicago, not such a nice place, most of the industry is gone.
Right.
But the thing that is still there, for example, is the BP Whiting plant, 450,000 or so barrels a day. That plant still kind of continues. It's not particularly the best managed, but it's an important element of the supply chain. And to replace it, you would need something pretty dramatic, either a storage operation or terminaling or so forth. So these infrastructure-like assets, we think, have value in use, and we think they particularly have value in use with an international perspective. Because from an international perspective,
with the macro trends going on, you're saying they continue to be right.
Well, and also most of the big refineries of the world are being constructed internationally. So we like supply and logistics. We like the offshore, the deep and ultra deep, particularly in our market in the North Sea.
Which you said will continue to attract capital.
Huge,
it's going to be a big source.
30% top line growth.
What do you guys think? Maybe LNG is too new, but I mean, this is one of those infrastructure plays from a logistics standpoint that seems to be growing, right? You've got everybody wants to get their hands on the cheapest gas, and it's just.
I think pipes and gathering systems upstream are pretty good. I think they're incremental safe bets.
Right.
Yes. LNG is not for the faint-hearted. I think it's such a large capital investment.
And it's
think
relatively new. I mean, it's just still. I mean, it's not new, but it hasn't been an integrated market.
But to your point, I think integrated suppliers do it the best. British Gas, certainly the GDF guy. You know, people who convert the reserve into some monetizable, flow. For whatever reason, that's a lot easier for them to do than for people to pick off pieces of that chain. We do better in that with the
guys. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate having you.